Just give me that signature clap whenever you're ready.
Oh, I've already synced. I've been recording this whole time.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't see the clap or hear the clap, so I'm over here like rocking out and drumming on my own beat and shit. Yeah, so. Anyways, guys, welcome back to the Winter Wolf's Den. I am your host, Winter Wolf. That guy's my co-host, that's King Z. And we're just talking sports for way longer than we should have, so who knows how much of that we're going to leave in there. That'll be fun. But we're going to jump right into our short-form show today. We're talking Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 5. It was called The Pirate, was it not? Was that the title this week?
The Pirate, yep.
Yep. We're going to get right into that, where we each give you, we give 3 points apiece. Watch the little screen for the cute little graphics that come up. And the trick here is we're going to try and get in and out of the show in 20 minutes. Kingsley, if you have armed the countdown, boom. Let's get going. We'll go with the synopsis real quick. I'm just going to ramble it out for you right quick, guys. Mandalorian has to go back to Navarro because Grief Karga's got himself in trouble with the pirates we've been waiting on for 5 weeks. Has to go there and sort out some details. Some cool stuff happens along the way that's used as a springboard to set up another show. When Captain Carson, I think it's Carson Teva, was the ranger of the, what would have been the ranger of the New Republic, that was working with the Cara Dune character, investigates and finds something kind of cool at the end of the episode, which we're going to touch on for sure. And possible conspiracy plot being laid down? We don't know. They left it fairly up in the air. But shorter episode again. No, actually, this was a good one in terms of runtime. 44 minutes, I think.
44 with credits.
Right. So probably just shy of 40, adjusted for, of course. And that's longish for this kind of show anyway. It runs a little bit. I think this season's been pretty good about hitting the mark, but they're definitely making good time. But why don't you give me a first point, dude? What'd you like? What didn't you like?
All right, first point. And I think everyone who's been listening to us for this long knows what I'm going to say, is I love the military sci-fi of it. It was straight military sci-fi. When they came in with their tactics against the pirates, they come dropping in, coming up, awesome. clearing the alley like a true SEAL team. Yeah, I was digging that. I'm like, they're back. It's back.
Yeah, I like me some Mandalorians.
I was excited about that.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, that's my first point. As I enjoyed the military sci-fi of it, I like that it was a true military-esque like I could see that as like if we had like real space marines dropping in to clear a planet that's been attacked or something like that. It was well executed. Drop ship. Yeah,
the orbital drop. Yeah,
it.
Definitely.
Yeah, totally digging that.
I was vibing for sure on that. I'll switch around my points to do I'll reverse a couple of points so I can just tie into the military thing. Dude, is it just me, or is Mando's N1 starship looking extra crispy and nimble this week? That fucker moves around on the screen, darting in and out like a fucking hummingbird, and I loved it. I'm a sucker for the space combat. You know this. My heart is with the TIE fighters. But in this week, we got to see some Y-Wings. There was no action, but I just like seeing the Y-Wing on screen. It has its own unique engine sound, like a little signature tone that's a little somewhere in between X-Wings and TIEs. So I mean, it's still distinct to me. I liked it. But dude, the N1, when he's getting up in the mix with the 8 snub fighters at the end, dude, he's just darting left, right. Dude, he pulls the Top Gun Maverick move at one point where like he slams the brakes, pulls up and gets 2 of them to hit each other. And the best part of that scene is when the pirate, I think his name was it Vane or Vale, the one that gets away. Right? He's trying to make call-outs to his squad mates about where he is, and he's above you, and Mando just comes in from the top and guns. He's like, no, he's below you, and he comes up from underneath another one, and he guns that one too, and he's just whittling down this entire crew by its own. And the best part about that shit is the whole thing was just the distraction. It was the decoy. He was just there to draw them away, and then more space combat comes in, because Bo-Katan rolls through with her unique-looking ship and absolutely lays the smackdown on the pirate capital ship, which is pretty dope. So I was digging that. I love space combat in this show has been fairly decent whenever the Mandalorian's involved. I like it.
Yep, it's been really good. The aerial combat, it's a combat drop ship is what she dropped.
Yep. That's right. She said that, didn't she? Yep.
Digging it. I do breakdown on it.
Yeah, I did. And that was good. See, that's the exposition I like as it pertains to the tech they're using. It's not dry. It's not long-winded. She was just telling them, hey, this is what we're using because you're the ones using it and you have to use it like this. stay together, stay tight, by the numbers, and we're going to be fine. Dude, it was pretty good for all that. Like you said, man, the military sci-fi action stuff, it came out pretty good this week, I thought. I was okay with that. Give me point number 2. Let's keep it moving.
Point number 2, is some callback to some actors. First off, the Ranger. What was it, Captain?
It's Carson Teva, I think his name. Teva.
You guys
T-E-V-A.
might recognize him from the Netflix series Convenience. Great comedic actor. Great to see him. He's a great actor. And then also the great Tim Meadows showed up in this episode, playing Tim Meadows.
Yep. Yeah, he did. Bureaucrat extraordinaire. It was good stuff.
Yeah. And then you also had the on-screen debut of the live-action... Oh, what was his name? The one who told him, "Are you sure?" By the time they did the one he was talking to in the bar when they first got the notification. I forgot the name, but he was actually in Rebels.
The big purple guy?
Yeah, he was actually in the animated
cool.
series Rebels.
Cool. See, I missed that tie-in because I don't watch the animated stuff. But I like that character. I thought he was cool. He had a presence to him, and I was like, they gave him they gave him dialogue, and it didn't suck. And his effect work, I thought, it was a plus because that ties into one of my other points coming up later. So yeah, keep going. Sure.
So it was the live action debut of him, which was pretty cool to see as well.
Yep.
Actually, tell you the truth, I was actually really digging this episode. I thought it was like back to the basics of the Mandalorian a little bit, which I will save my third point for my downer. But I actually enjoyed this episode. 1, because I did military sci-fi, and 2, the actors that they brought into it.
Yep.
But it also was like a callback to its roots a little bit, which I kind of liked.
For sure. I'll give my second point here, tie it into the, like we just mentioned, Purple Dude, and apologies, fans. I didn't watch any of the animated stuff, so I don't know who Kingsley. I know only from this episode the character he's referring to. This show is really a tale of two effects teams when it comes down to it. There's a lot of stuff that looks really good, and there's a lot of stuff that looks really bad. And case in point, I think, is that the Purple Dude, who I'm just going to call Purple Dude from now on, I thought looked really good. He looked like he had bulk and mass to him. He comes in, he shuffles up to the bar and does one of these when he's talking to Captain Teva. The facial movements actually look like, like maxillary muscle movement of his cheeks and his jaws when he's speaking. His lips moved and they formed what should have been shapes to the words he was actually speaking. So I thought that character looked great. Conversely, look at everything on the pirate ship, from Discount Swamp Thing captain down to his navigator, his first in command, right? And then you juxtapose that against even some of the pirates that run in they were running the snub fighters. They just don't look real. Like there's something plasticky and fake about it that does not add up. And it's just a shame, because I think that if they went about it a different way and maybe they darkened some of these scenes, especially on the pirate ship, it's just too brightly lit. So you see all the movie magic. Like, no, cut it like a dark Klingon ship. Get some shadows in there. Go with a more ominous, like red kind of lighting or something. That way it offsets the Crayola plastic green of Gorian Shan, who should have been a cool character, but I couldn't get past the Jim Henson, Sesame Street Muppet look of him. So I'm like, I get he's supposed to be intimidating, but between the appearance itself and the lack of involvement in the show, which is going to come back in like my third and bigger point coming up, I couldn't get behind some of the look of some of these extra characters. Like the only character otherwise besides the purple guy that looked good in effects was the one like the pirate guy second in command that bailed, that like left him, like he chickened out of the dogfight, like because he's got it's like a mask that goes over. It's a prosthetic mask. It's not like a flight mask, but like his eyes are human eyes. They're kind of it's prosthetic up around the orbital sockets and things. The mouth is still a human mouth underneath whatever he's wearing. So I mean, he looked okay for a Star Wars character, but these other dudes, like the navigator on the ship that I think was of the same species from Mandalorian season 1, the guy that always said "I have spoken," like that character. Yeah. I think they were the same species, but it looked like a Halloween store rubber mask with like a little bit of work, but everything else looks good. The ships look good, sets look good. The city that Grief Cargo runs after it got bombed out looked pretty damn good. I'm like, okay, this is not bad. But that's my point.
The ship looked really good. I like the design of the ship. But going off your point about how bad it looked, You know who they remind me of? And I got a perfect meme. You're going to see it right here.
There it is.
It is, they look like Vinny in Pizza the Hut. Tell me he doesn't.
Yeah, dude. Yes, dude. Dude, you're right. It's like you can tell what. It's like I know this show has a high production budget. It's all spent on the CG shit, almost all of it, and staff salaries to Pedro probably. But where they come up short, and again, for the billionth time disclaimer, because for those that didn't hear, we know you didn't watch Kenobi and Boba Fett. But there are parts of this show, The Mandalorian in season 3, that look as laughably bad as some of the stuff did on Boba Fett, which is it's embarrassing, almost. And Gorian Shand is, I think, the top of that list. Point number 3 from that guy.
Point number 3, and it's going to be a callback to about 3 episodes ago where we talked about this. Dialogue is making these good actors look bad.
Yeah.
They're just, it's so to the point. We need to fight. I'm bad. There's no subtext. There's no drawn out. It's straight to the point every time. The best one, I think, that carries out anything that could be considered deep dialogue is the Armorer, the leader of the Mandalorians.
Ooh, interesting.
Because I think she's the only one I can see really, like, even Pedro Pascal as Din, his dialogue just isn't that good.
Yeah, there's nothing profound coming out of his mouth this season. Nothing.
No, like it's almost like night and day compared to the first 2 seasons of this. Mm-hmm. It's like they just hired some staff writers, like, all right, just tell them to say some stuff. We need to hit these points.
Yep.
Or as my wife pointed out about it too, it's like a really bad cutscene in a video game, like an 80s, 90s video game cutscene.
Yeah, before we could skip them.
Yeah, that's their dialogue that they have.
Yeah.
And it just it's ruining the actors that they're bringing into this.
Yeah.
Like, I think Tim Meadows did all right dealing with what he had, trying to play it off, but that's because he's a physical comedian to begin with. So, like, his facial expression, the way he just jitters around a little, that's what brings out. That they wasted the Tim Convenience guy. That guy, he was pretty much as straightforward. The best that he got, his dialogue towards the end, but once again, it's straightforward commentary. So yeah, I just think the writing on this for the dialogue has become extremely lazy, and it's ruining the performance.
Mm-hmm. My third point was also going to be a little bit. My third point will be up a little bit on a downer, and definitely on the on like a craft side also. But I want to address your Armorer point first, because that was going to be part of my bonus point. Dude, I hate that character now. I hate her, and I'll tell you why. I'm going the other way with her dialogue completely. I think at this point, you want to talk about bad dialogue, she says the same 3 things in every episode without actually revealing like anything new or saying anything interesting at all. Like, it's always, she echoes the "this is the way" from somebody, or she'll deliver a line in like a roundabout way that isn't really as. I think people are just bought into the illusion of the mystery because she's the faceless hero. And she had her nice little action beat this episode. That was pretty dope, and I felt that coming. Yeah. I was like, she's suiting up for this. There's no way. There's no way. And when they got pinned down by the blaster,
firearm.
Yeah. Oh, dude, in my heart of hearts, I swear to God, I knew she was bringing the tools. I knew she wasn't going in there with a blaster. I knew it, but I'm not. I think that she's almost a speaking version of Baby Yoda to me. They put her in these episodes, but she doesn't really challenge anybody this season most of the time. Like, she told Mando to go take his bath, right? But all she's really doing now is just kind of like clapping people on the back and like just being there when like pivotal things happen. But she doesn't instigate anything, except I guess at the end of the episode she kind of gave Bo-Katan a new task. But I think she's very surface level to me. Like, I needed to know more about her. Who put you in charge? How long have you been in charge? Are you still in charge if Din has the Darksaber? Why is that the case? Like, there's things that I would want to know, but this show just whips right past everything that could be interesting to bring me into the next dinosaur bird thing, which is just weird. My third point,
become a monster of the week without telling too much of her backstory.
Right, and it's the same with Din.
I was liking the way she tells the story, why she's doing something. Like she's making the armor. She's pretty much telling them the story. Like when she built Grogu's his first piece of his armor.
Yeah.
And that's.
But that was last year, dude. That was last year. This year she hasn't done shit.
Well, no, she did last episode.
Didn't she make him the bulletproof mesh thing the year before? She made him the breastplate this year.
She made the new breastplate for him this year and told more of a story why she was doing it.
True, that's true.
And then when she was repairing Bo-Katan's armor, telling the story again.
True. So that's an interesting aspect of what she does. But I think that she's systemic of something bigger on this show where it's like it's got a lot of nifty small ideas, but because they're $1 trillion an episode to make, they're only going to make 9 of them. And then they and this cuts right into the point I'm going to make now for my third point. I feel like they wrote 10 episodes of a show, right? But they were all written by like separate people. We know that not to be the case, but it feels like it. Where they pepper in these interesting ideas, like the Armorer, like Paz Vizsla having a kid, or like the Darksaber, like the Imperial officer that they captured, but she's still working for Gideon, Officer G28, who made a brief appearance in the bureaucrat's office where she's being rehabilitated as a clerk. So we have all these little things. But we just rocket right past all of it. And I'm like, especially after this week, because I too, my caption of my article that I wrote, my note sheet here or whatever, is it's one of the season's best episodes. And that's why I hate it. Because this episode here should have been like episode 2 or 3. Like it's shortly removed from the Mandalorian wrecking up the gang of pirates on the planet. And then we don't waste a whole episode on a scientist that dies. And moving forward, he's dead, but we now know that G28's a spy. Like, no. Follow up on the Moff Gideon escaping custody thing. Put her in an episode with Tim Meadows from Jump Street early on, where you slowly build her into like being the insider. She's a mole. And then you finish like your halfway point episode, like episode 4 or something, maybe even 3. With the big reveal that Moff Gideon's on the loose, that he broke out of custody, like his boys broke him out in the shuttle, because that was cool. We'll get to that at the end. But like this show, it's wasted so much time on characters that aren't important. Like every single time they show me the mechanic, or they show me Grogu, or they show me just some other pointless throwback to something that doesn't pertain to going forward, it pisses all over all these other cool things. Like, dude, like tell me with a straight face it wouldn't have been more interesting to have maybe even a whole background episode of Grief Karga's involvement with those pirates, why he left them, where the split was, and then build their beef into a culminating 3rd episode of that shootout. You know what I mean? And then the bombardment. Like there was a lot of stuff we could have done there, but as it is, it's done. Like that arc is closed, except for the one guy that ran away that'll probably come back in episode 7 or something like that. And I feel like we just open up all these threads that can be compelling, but we get the absolute like Cliff Notes version of like what all happened, and then we just move on to the next thing. Sorry, that was a spiel, but I had to get that one out because that shit's really annoying me.
Yeah, when you're looking at it, the problem is that they do use The Mandalorian as a tie-in series. They use it to tie in all
That's my
the
bonus
other
point. Yeah.
IPs of Star Wars. And like they have to drop everything in The Mandalorian to make everything else make sense. So that really takes away from this show to begin with. Mm-hmm. Number 2 on that is I think they did it the way they did for the Mandalorians to rebuild Mandalore. And they needed a place of operation that wasn't in the shadows like they were before.
True.
So I can definitely understand, even if they didn't do a full episode of the backstory of the Grand Magistrate, maybe just start off the episode like in a flashback and then come into the episode. Instead of like a recap, do a flashback starting off with him working with the pirates. And then you know what happened. Like they talked about what happened when they gunned him down in cold blood.
That's right. That's what I mean. and I think by extension off of that point too, they could have had it that way. There could have been a different flashback, where he's already invited the Mandalorians to live on Navarro as like the peace offering for whatever went down. That way they're already there in a remote location, right? And then when like they need to have their, you know, their coming together moment, they're there, and we don't have to take a detour to send Din Djarin and Bo-Katan down to Monster Beach where they're still living for whatever reason. Like, how many more kids need to get eaten before you move off this beach? You know, but they're still there. And so we gotta fetch quest like a team of Mandalorian assault mercenaries to come back to Navarro to do the thing. Well, like, I just feel like there was, like I said, I felt like there was 10 scripts, and they got ripped up, thrown up in the air, and then they pasted, you know, 40 pages back together randomly almost. It's weird.
It was more like, we want to get here, but we have to mention this, and
right.
this. So
That's what I mean.
And that was the whole purpose of the last episode of
right.
when the kid got eaten. The reason they needed that to happen,
right, was
to be on his his side for them to move on.
But it's
like that whole episode was based to move this one plot point and the
right.
next episode.
But this is what I mean. I feel like I know that had to happen because it wouldn't have made sense for them to all go roll to Navarro and do the thing. But at the same time, I'm like, was that the best way to make that happen? Like, did it really need to be so far out of the way to get us to point B? I don't know. Because I think the more I think of this show, and this was my bonus point, like you said, it's just a launch pad for literally every other character that they think they can. It's Marvel. You know, it's every B, C, and D list characters getting a show. Like, the Armorer is going to have a prequel show soon. That'll be a thing. You know what I mean? We know that they had other ones set up that have been canceled or in various stages of hold up. I think Bo-Katan's Night Owl show is still going to be a thing. That's directly connected. We know the Ahsoka show, directly connected. That's going to be a thing. The Rangers of the New Republic, the Gina Carano thing, that's still done. But they still have Captain Teva, or Teva, whatever his name is, in the show here. So I think that whole involvement where let's talk about that as part of my bonus point. So at the end of the episode, he's flying back from Navarro, and he finds a derelict shuttle that the New Republic was using as a prison transport ship. And of course, it's been blown out. It's got a massive gaping hole in it. He sends a little probe in, which I thought was cool. Actually kind of reminded me of Aliens. When they find Ripley at the beginning of the movie, like the salvage team goes in, it's got the blue and white light kind of scanning through deep space. I thought that was that was cool. But he finds that Moff Gideon's body's missing, crew's killed, you know, and then thus confirming that Moff Gideon never made it to trial, kind of thing, because that had been a rumor. Apparently nobody could conclusively document that because he was a war criminal or something, and like they wouldn't have records of prisoner transports of high value. Yeah, of course not, right? Star Wars. But the cool part is the droid picks up something unusual on the scan at the end, and he says that they found trace elements of Beskar, which anybody watching show knows that's, you know, Mandalorian elements of their armor and their hand combat weapons. So it ends on a, wait a minute, did the Mandalorians, or which sect of Mandalorians broke them out? Was it the Mandalorians? Was it the Imperials? So I don't know. What did you think of that? I thought that was the most worthwhile end of show thing they've done in a long time. Like, I was intrigued by that.
Yeah, that was nice. You pretty much knew what was happening. I mean, anyone knows. At first, though, when I first saw the shuttle they're using, which is an old Imperial design.
It's an Imperial shuttle, right?
I thought they were using it to tie in another one of the movies or something like that at that point.
Oh, dude, my heart sank. It did. I was like, it's fucking Palpatine's body in there. I know it.
This is how they're going to clone him.
Yep, dude, I was pissed.
But it was a good, and then the whole cliffhanger that it was taken by Mandalorians, which I believe
possibly
is the sect that,
possibly,
which I think is the sect that left Bo-Katan that she hinted at in episode 1. Like, they left her behind because she didn't have the darksaber and they went on their own thing. So they went after Moff Gideon either for their own justice for what he did.
They were gonna kill him at the end of season 2.
Or they're looking for the darksaber themselves, and he was the last person to see it before he lost it to Din.
Yep, good point. But I really enjoyed the wrap up on that one for sure. I thought that was very. That's exactly how an episodic show is supposed to end, especially when they are doing, you know, like a serialized thing where it's a long story told over the season and not just a monster of the week thing. So yeah, it probably the best, one of the best episodes of the season. But the more you put it up to scrutiny, I'm just like, I feel like this is a wasted opportunity. Like, the more Grogu they give me, I'm annoyed every time he comes on screen. Like, why did he bring him in the N1 to go do the space battle? Why? They brought no other foundlings. He doesn't do force shit in space. He's basically child endangerment. Like, somebody call DCF in the New Republic. Put in a 51A. This is a child in need right there. His father is endangering him with unnecessary on-the-job guardian. His guardian is endangering him on the job. Like, I thought that because I'm like, but they had to have it. They had to have him sitting in his lap so he was forward facing the camera so you could see his stupid green ears and be like, oh yeah, I guess I got to go buy another Grogu plushie for my kid. But like, added nothing to the episode because they already popped their shot with him in the stupid Boba Fett show with his big force display at the end of that, which when Din was in danger, he did some ET shit and took apart a giant battle mech droid thing, to save Din. I'm like, well, what else is he gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see another episode like last week with the double backflip bullshit, like him having a wrist-mounted dart throwing thing. Stop. The mini cheese cutter lightsaber thing from Family Guy. No. Stop. Like Grogu he needs to go somewhere, like with Ahsoka or some shit at the end of this year. There probably isn't going to be a season 4, but I don't think we know that yet. But I'm good. Like, it's done. It's been done. And then I think any patience I had left for that dynamic between the two of them, now that we've just seen The Last of Us, I'm really done. Because we just got to saw that live action with actually two people that could talk and have a more symbiotic back and forth of like, we're taking care of each other kind of thing, and not just the Mandalorian carrying around a fucking doll all week, But I don't. Any last words on the show? Looking forward to next week and more on the Imperial Revelations of Gideon. I know I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I do want to say I believe that we talked about this. I don't think we were actually on camera when we talked about it. Me and you were talking about it, where Bo-Katan, like in the comics or something, rode the Mythosaur.
Yeah, we were off.
They're leaning towards that.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're leaning towards it.
I think you might be right because the only interesting thing. This is another one, dude. Another one. It's like they give you half of a good thing, and then it's half of a bad thing or half of an undoing. The Armorer gives Bo-Katan an interesting quest of like, okay, you saw the Mythosaur, tribes. Right? You say you saw the Mythosaur, and I believe you. I was raised that it's allegory, it's imagery, but it's inspiring. But you say you saw it, and you sound like you believe it. You go reunite the tribes. We need to bring Mandalore home. We're gonna retake our world. So in the first 2 seconds of that, you get the goosebumps. You're like, oh shit, like that's fairly profound. Like we're gonna have like a culture again. Like I'll bring our culture together to flourish. Yada yada yada. So you're like, oh shit. But then you think about it, like, well, she doesn't have the Darksaber, and is that not tied into their whole lexicon of belief of who should lead, like who should be war chief? I thought that was a fairly important thing, but it's come up 0 times this year in the Mandalorian setting. In season 2, he had to fight Paz Vizsla to get it. Din. He didn't wield it well. Like it was, it does the whole, like, if you're not worthy Thor's hammer thing, it's too heavy or whatever. But, this year, like, he's used it once to not escape combat, and it's not come up in Mandalorian context again. And then the other half of the armor a bit is we just put Bo-Katan through the whole arc of, like, finding the way again and putting her through her paces and, like, falling back into, like, her faith and reinvigorating. So she puts the helmet back on. So 15 fucking minutes later, the armor is like, hey, take that shit off and go put in some FaceTime with Mandalorians everywhere else. I'm like, okay. I don't know. It just seems like
she walks both paths.
Yeah, but it's I get they said that, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's like, if Din was from the Children of the Watch, and they're the ones that were super secular and not secular, the other thing, super religious, and had to keep the helmet on. So then he stumbles across another Mandalorian covert that also keeps their helmets on all the time. So is the default setting for Mandalorians that the helmets are on all the time, or is it that they're like Bo-Katan and the original group she had where they're off all the time? Because when he met that group, they thought he was the dickhead for always having it on.
Yeah, so she was part of the ruling family at the time when Mandalore was, and they broke away from they thought it was just tradition. They didn't think it was part, it wasn't religious. So
Okay.
they broke away from the.
So they were the
actual path of
progressives.
wearing the helmets.
Okay.
So they're the ones who started taking their helmets off and only wore helmets for combat or ceremonies. and
So
stuff
everybody
like that.
she was with, everybody Bo-Katan was with leading into this season, then they were connected probably to that royal house, to House Kreese or whatever her name. Okay. So like the WWF, what was that, Sasha Banks and the other 3 that were with her at the end of season 2. Okay, so they were all connected with that.
Yeah.
So they're helmet off Mandalorians.
Yeah.
So the default setting, universe-wide, galaxy-wide, is probably domes on.
Helmet on.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So thank you for clearing that up. All right. So I thought but it's even with that explanation, I'm still kind of annoyed that it kind of undoes the thing she just did. But at least they rightly wrote it where she hesitated to do it. To show, so do you not respect my station kind of thing.
And then her uncomfortableness of her
Right.
walking around with her helmet on afterwards.
And rightly so, because the other Mandalorians in that setting were like, the fuck is this going on here? And then it took the Mandalorian nodding to Paz, to give him like the, dude, it's cool, be cool, just let her do her thing. So I mean, I guess that's okay. But I think for me, it's a whole lot of, we get half doses of good things, and then we get walkbacks, and we get half doses and walkbacks. But with only, what do we have, 9 episodes? Is that what we're doing here? 9?
Yeah, and I think this one, that was what,
This was
episode
5. True. So this is the halfway point. But I mean, so I think we're either firmly entrenched in the Bo-Katan show going forward, because now she's on an actual specified mission. Din's plot threads are all wrapped up. He already went back and rescued his friend again. Like, I don't need to see him do any time on Tatooine and hang out with the mechanic. Like, I don't need that. I would like him to go back to this. Here's a deep cut to season 1. I would like him to return to the village he rescued from raiders that had the AT-ST walker. He met a woman that was there. She asked him to stay, and he considered it. Like,
Yeah.
Go back there. Go back there and find out that somebody burned out the village, and give me a vengeance episode. Give me the Mandalorian from episode 1, season 1, where he goes into the bar to capture the guy, shoots 3 of his buddies, and then hits him with the whipcord and pulls him through the door until it cuts him in half. Give me that. Like, put some oomph back into this show before it leads out, because it's way too clean right now. It's way too soft. There's not a whole lot of, oh shit, like the scene from last year when he went to go claim the bounty. He was in like a butcher shop, and he absolutely murked like 8 people in there. And I was like, oh, would we get one of these a year? Like, that's it. We get one of these scenes per season where they just like up the hand-to-hand combat, and you're like, oh, I think he broke that dude's. Oh shit, he shot that guy in the face. I need a little bit more of that within the limits of Star Wars to keep it, for a little bit for everybody. But yeah, I hope we get something great going forward. I think they're setting up something interesting with Gideon, but I think we've gone way off the rails and off the map to get to this point. I think that's where I'm at with that. So, all right, I'll give you ultimate final thoughts, if anything else, before we bounce up out of here, because we got to be over now.
Oh, we're way over.
Way over. All right, I'm gonna need you to stamp a mission failed on the screen right there. We will RTB for retask and get back to you guys next week. But yeah, we're gonna bounce now because King Z says we're way over. That guy's King Z. I'm Winter Wolf. We hope you enjoyed our brief but extended coverage of Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 5, The Pirate. Check us out at Winter Wolf's Den. We're going to get back to you week to week until this show is over, and then we'll figure out our next move. But until that time, guys, we'll see you. There we go.